So it's 10:01. Let's begin. Hi, everybody. I am Don Fredrickson. I am the founder and primary developer of the Senior Tech Club website and developer of our programs that are designed to help older adults with their technology needs. Focusing primarily on iPhones and iPads, but am wandering out into the Android space at this time also. So we're glad you're here. This has been an interesting journey over the last month as many of us have been hunkered down. I'm doing this video in my office in the basement of my house. My office door is right over here, which I have partially open because we have a dog that will scratch at the door if the door is closed. But we're all hunkered down. And so I've made a number of changes to the programs of the Senior Tech Club in the face of the reality. And the essence of it is all of our programs are now free, all right? And at the same time, this is the first of what I think will be a number of free training sessions that I hope we can attract an audience of older adults to help them with some of their apps and some of the functions of their devices. So for instance, today we're going to be talking about texting and messaging, but we are going to follow that up with sessions about FaceTime. We're going to focus on Zoom. We're going to get into some social media. We're going to get into some tools that you can use to read books and others. And we intend to make all of those sessions free to our audience over the next few months. Right, so it's good to have everybody on board. Let me do another shift here, and we will continue with our discussion. All right, so here we're going to talk about the focus of today's session. All right, so we have this session on texting and using the Messages app. And so we want to start out today by having a short little discussion about why texting has become such an essential communication tool for us, over the past few years. All right, so we'll focus on that. And then we're going to dive into the app. All right, so we're going to take a look at the Messages app, which is found on your iPhone. Now, when we initially do that, we do want to explore some of the basic functions that you use to send and receive messages. And so if you have been doing texting with your iPhone, there's probably not going to be anything new within the basic texting process, but it's not very long. It's maybe 10 minutes or so, and I want to get through some of these core elements, these core functions. But then we're going to spend the last chunk of time in this session exploring topics that I call beyond the basics, right? And so I actually have 9 elements. You see 4 examples on this screen on the right. Yes, we want to talk about attaching photos, attaching a new photo. I get a frequent question about how do you save a photo that you have received. We want to talk about some of the special effects. We're going to talk about searching messages. We want to talk about dictation. I'm a huge fan of using dictation with the Messages app in order to craft messages that are a little bit longer. All right, so we'll do a tour of those functions, and then we'll always have opportunities to take your questions, and I'll talk more about this in just a bit. And then a very important element is that if we go through something today and you missed it, we want to show you how you can get back to the discussion, how you can see the online materials and more. And then we'll wrap up the session by just introducing to you what's coming up next In fact, next Monday at 10 a.m., next Monday, 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time, when we take a look at FaceTime. All right, let's talk about some of the rules of this session. I want this to be pretty informal. I want to pretend like we are all sitting around the kitchen table, drinking our coffee, and we're just some folks that are sharing information about our phones, maybe our iPads, although we'll try and keep our social distance as we do that. Right? I have chosen YouTube as the platform for these sessions for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's nice because you don't have to log in, you don't have to install any apps like you might have to with Zoom or the other platforms. But at the same time, there's a couple of items. Number one, I cannot see you. All right, and so I have no idea what you're wearing. You could be wearing pajamas for all I know. That's fine. I certainly cannot see what your hair looks like now that you've been hunkered down for 4 to 6 weeks. I also cannot hear you. So you can have a conversation with your spouse, while you're talking, while you're waiting for topics to proceed. So those are just the items. But at the same time, I'd also like to get your feedback. I'd like to get your questions and your comments. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Number one, if you are logged on to YouTube, if you happen to have a Google or Gmail account, Google has all of this, you can log on and you can do a chat. So on the right side of your window, you have a chat window. And so if you can do the chat, I say hi, so I have a sense of who's here. Another way that you can send me feedback is that you can send me a text message. And you see the number on the screen. I've also put the number on the bar along the bottom, so that if you have a question during our session, send me a text message. Now, this is not my normal text platform. This is one that I've set up specifically for these sessions. And then finally, although I will not be monitoring this during this session, if you do have a follow-up question, you can send me an email at questions@seniortechlab.com, and we'll be able to respond to those questions. All right. Why texting? So I don't know if you have noticed, if you have children or grandchildren, we have discovered that, we might call our children on the phone and discover that they don't answer the phone. And then we leave them a voicemail, right? Because that's what we learned to do 20 years ago, that many of us had answering machines at the time when we would leave a voicemail. And I'd like to see a show of hands. You raise your hand if you can say that you have children or grandchildren that have actually listened and have responded to items that you've left in a voicemail. It doesn't happen in our family, right? So the point here is our text messaging seems to be a platform that our children and grandchildren will respond to. That's probably the number one reason why you need to be using it. It's a platform. It's very quick. It's immediate. It's inexpensive. It's very informal. It's also very common these days to find business applications for your text messaging. Right. Although now we're not going out to restaurants at the moment. It's been very common over the past few years that when you check in at the host desk at a restaurant waiting for a table, they will take your cell phone number so that they can send you a text message. All right. But even those restaurants that are doing takeout or curbside delivery are also sending you a text message saying, hey, your food is ready. You can come by and pick it up. It's also very commonly used for security applications. Now, at the Senior Tech Club, I have been a big fan of using the enhanced security sometimes known as two-factor authentication. And this is the security where you might log into your banking site or a transaction site, and you submit your user ID and your password, but then they say, wait, we want to make sure that you are you. And so then they send you a text message and ask you to put in a code within the text message, right? So the point here is that texting is a must-do skill within your iPhone, not only as a tool, as a primary tool for staying connected, not only with your family, but friends, former colleagues, relatives, but also as a tool for business, whether it's restaurants, transactions, security uses, and so forth. So let's jump into the tools themselves and start to explore this. Oh, I'm sorry. I have one note that I forgot. With the increased use of texting within business transactions, it does expand the vulnerability that is associated with spam and fraud. So that if you look at this message, this text message that I received some time ago, this was supposedly from Walmart. Now, I was immediately suspicious of this because I'm not an active shopper at Walmart. But the point is, they wanted me to click on this link. And I don't know what they were after by clicking on this link. But I did not respond to this. So your general rule is like what the experts say about phone calls, where you're not supposed to answer phone calls from unknown callers. The same thing happens with text messages, that it's better for you not to respond to them. And also know that the IRS and my bank says that they will not send unsolicited text messages like this, and so do not respond to them. All right, so the primary tool that we're looking at today is going to be the Messages app. And let me do another setup here. All right, so what you're looking at on the right-hand side of your screen, this happens to be my iPhone, all right? And so you are looking at my live iPhone. This is my real stuff. On the left-hand side of your screen, you are looking at the slide deck, right, the presentation that I've created, and then I've given you just a little headshot in the middle so that you have a sense of who's talking and what's going on. Okay, so in this regard, the Messages app is your primary tool for sending text messages within your iPhone. And many people will launch that by going to the icon, which is oftentimes on your dock on the bottom of the screen. This is probably not new information for most of you. I do want to draw your attention on the left, where you see the icon for the Messages app. If you notice that you have an indication that says 4, this is a badge. This is referred to as a badge. And if you see something like this on your screen, this is a message that essentially tells you that you have 4 unread text messages on your device. All right, now, so then this becomes a question about how do you know that you are getting a text message? Well, there's a couple of items. Number one, we've already talked about that badge. And so here, if you take a look at my phone, I currently have, it looks like it's 9 unread text messages. By the way, most of them are just status information. Don't think that I don't read the messages that you send me. But then additionally, you might get notifications, and you see notifications on the left side of your screen. I can show you that on my phone, in that if I go to my notifications center, I have 2 notifications about text messages that have come in. And so that's coming from your notifications center. All right, now I'm going to go back to my Messages app, and now you see that I have a whole series of messages, and I can scroll down these messages, which I do tend to just let accumulate over time. Top on my list, that's my wife, Joan C. Pierre, and then right below that, you actually see a message from our home security system. You can see then that there is a blue dot, all right, and I just want to show you that. The blue dot next to a message is your indication that the message is unread. Okay? All right, so let's uncover a couple of these basic skills. All right, number one. Right, what if you want to reply to one of these messages that you've received? It's pretty simple. It's a 3-step process. Number one, you're going to tap on the message to read it. Number two, you type a reply. And number three, you tap the send button. That's it. All right. Let's do a really quick demonstration for those that are relatively new to this. This will take just but a second. So I've got this message from my wife at the top of the list. Here's the photo that you wanted. Enjoy. I can tap on the message, and now I can see the full message. I can actually see the photo of my grandson that she sent me. And so now, if you're simply going to respond to this, you go down and you tap on the message box at the bottom of the screen. You now get a keyboard, and you can now type a message into the keyboard like, thanks. This is the one I wanted. I had asked her for this. All right, and step number three, as we indicated, you just press on the send button. Couldn't be easier. All right, so the process of replying to a message that somebody has sent to you, you just tap on the message in order to read it. You tap on the message box where it says iMessage or message down below. You tap on it, and then that will expose a keyboard where you can then type your message. Really straightforward, really easy. All right, so now let's talk about what that process looks like if you are sending a brand new message. This is a message that you are not part of an ongoing thread. So how do you start a brand new message? And I have created a 5-step process for this. Once again, this will just take us a minute or two to go through this. Most of you have probably already done this. We'll identify a couple of key points. All right, so you go into your Messages app. And I'm going to tap on the back button to go to the main messages screen. And I want to draw your attention to the compose icon. This is step number 2, all right, on my list. The compose icon is like the little piece of paper with a pencil. And you tap on compose, and this is going to open up a blank message screen. At this point, you have points number 3, 4, and 5 on my item. There are really 3 essential elements that is required in order to send a text message. Right? You need somebody to send it to, a recipient, something in the to box. You need a message, and then you tap send. That's it. All right, really straightforward process. So in this particular case, if I am sending a message, I'm going to actually send a message to one of my other phones. This will be myself. Whoops, there's an interesting picture. And I am going to say Goofy on this picture, and I type the send button, and that message has been sent. Straightforward. Okay, so the point here is that creating a brand new message, really simple process, 5 steps to it, and you accomplish that by launching the Messages app. You tap the compose icon. You usually find it up on the upper right. You will then type a recipient. All right, and I'm going to get into more details of that in just a bit. You'll type your message, and then you'll tap send. All right, very easy to do. All right, if there are any questions about that process, send me a text message, send me a follow-up question, and I'll hope to clarify that. All right, so now let's get into the stuff, the beyond the basics stuff. And in fact, I've created a list here of the initial 5. There's 9 altogether that I want to cover. I want to, first of all, spend some time talking about recipients and doing multiple recipients. I'll show you some of the options in terms of being able to identify what goes into the toolbox. I want to do a handful of things as it relates to pictures. I want to show you how to capture or attach a new picture, attach an existing picture. I also want to show you how to save a photo that has been sent to you. I want to get into the search process, all right, associated with texting. All right, so let me just check to see if there's been any questions. I'm not seeing any at this point. I've got a bunch of people that are on the line. Thank you for being here. Let's keep going. So what we've done, those of you who have just come into the session, we have covered some of the real basic elements, how to receive and reply to a message and how to send a message. Now we're going to jump into some of the beyond the basic components of our text messaging. First of all is multiple recipients. All right, so when you do a text message and you do the compose process, the question here is, can you send a text message to multiple people? Now, this is a question that's going to be on the final exam. The answer is true. You can send a text message to multiple people, and it's really simple process. Now, this is a good opportunity for us to review. How did you fill in that to box? Well, most of the time, if I'm at this point, like I have on my screen, I am going to start typing a name. So if I'm going to send a message to my wife, I can type the first couple of characters of her name, and she pops up on the top of my contact list, and I can tap it, and there I have it. If I also want to include my daughter in this list, I can simply type a few characters of her name, and now there are two names in the recipient box. You can go on, and in fact, there isn't really a practical limit in terms of how many people you can add to this. When you type or enter something into that to box, you don't have to do what I just did, in that you can also put in a number. So if you have the texting number, so as an example, you see an advertisement on the television that says, send a text to 60601 to get a free taco from Taco Bell. You can enter a number like that into that box. Here's another trick that you can do, and that is you can also press on the plus sign that is off on the right-hand side. The plus sign right next to the to box, you can tap on this plus sign, and that will bring you into your contact list. All right, and so this is your full list of contacts that are in your system. And so you can then include these people on your list. Okay? All right, so the point here is, can you send a text message to multiple recipients? This will be on the final test. The answer is true, you can. All you have to do is type in additional names or select additional contacts. Now, one of the things you will notice, and this is just a note, that when you send a text message to multiple people, it keeps that group together so that you can continue the conversation by simply having people reply to the group. It will then keep that group together as long as that conversation continues. You do have to be a little bit careful in that sometimes you reply to a group and you don't recognize immediately that you are replying to a group, and you have to make sure that you're not saying something bad about one of the people in the group, because you might have missed that particular situation. All right, so that's the idea behind sending an email to multiple recipients. All right, opportunity number 2 is, how do you attach a new photo to an email? All right, so here's your scenario. We are past our hunkered down scenario, and we are now out and about. and you are visiting the grocery store as an example, and then all of a sudden there is a famous person standing right in front of you. Just for discussion purposes, I'm going to say it's Bradley Cooper. All right. And so Bradley Cooper is standing in front of you. And now you're going to send a text message to, in my case, I'm going to send it to Joan, and I'm going to say, look, Brad Cooper. All right, and so now what I want to do is I want to take a picture immediately of Bradley Cooper. And so in order to do this, I am going to type on the camera icon. Now, I don't have the camera icon right here because my message box has been expanded. I can click on this arrow, and then there is my camera icon, and I can click on it, and it now launches my photo. And so in this particular case, if Bradley Cooper was sitting right here, we could then be taking a picture of that and forwarding that to the recipient. All right. So the question is, how do you attach a new picture to a text message? Well, you can tap on the camera icon, and that will launch the functions of the camera. Right? Pretty straightforward process. Looking for questions? Not seeing any questions at that point? That's great. All right, next item. On your phone, you very likely have accumulated a collection of photographs that are in your photo library. All right. My photo library is pretty boring at this point because I haven't been anywhere, all right, for quite a while. But you probably collect photos of your family and friends and destinations that you've been to and vacations and so forth. And what you would like to do is you would like to send a text message where you are attaching a picture from your photo library into that text message. All right. So I'm going to go back to this conversation that I have with Joan, and I'm going to get rid of this Bradley Cooper. And in this particular case, instead of tapping on the camera, you are going to tap on the photos icon. And if I tap on the photos icon, it now takes me into my photos collection. Now, I'm going to tap on the message box to put that away because I want to show you something that will occasionally happen. All right, so I just typed some mumbo jumbo into the message box, and you notice that the icon for the Photos app has disappeared from that bar above the keyboard. So how do you get it back? Well, this is where you can tap on the app icon that is adjacent to the message box. So you tap on the app icon, and there all of a sudden is the Photos app down below the message box once again. Now, when you go to that photos collection, you have a couple of opportunities here. Number one, you have recent photos, and now you can see how boring my recent photographs have been. I've been doing a lot of screenshots as I've been doing development work, all right? But there is also a way that you can go to all photos. And so you tap on all photos, and it will now take you into all of your folders, all of your albums that you have created. So for instance, I have a photo from Hawaii that I'd like to send out, and I can simply select it and I can choose it. And now that is an existing photo from my photo library. All right, so real simple process. If you have a photo from your photo library that you would like to send, you simply look for that photos album and you can go from there. All right. Next item. I want to talk about how do you save a photo that has been sent to you. Right. So the example is you have asked somebody, like I did with my wife. I said, hey, can you find that picture of our grandson that you took and send it to me? And so she used the Messages app and sent that photo to me. And now this photo is available in the Messages app, but it is not in my photo library. And so I would like to save it to my photo library. Right, so on the slide deck on this side, I've given you the steps to accomplish this, and we'll walk through it. So here's the picture of my grandson, and what you do is you tap on it in order to display it, right? And now you are going to tap on the share icon. The share icon is on the lower left side of the screen. It has the arrow pointing up. I tap on the share icon, and this will retrieve the share sheet. And if you scroll down or swipe up on the share sheet, you will find a command that says Save Image. This is the command. So when I tap on it, it will then save that photo to the photo library. Now, I'm going to go back in there. I happen to have version 13 of the iOS software, and they did a major redesign of the share sheet where mine scrolls down. In previous versions of that share sheet, you might have to scroll horizontally to see save to image. So if you're using a little bit older iPhone or you haven't been updated, you can look for that there. All right, so now let's confirm. So let's get out of here. I am done with this. Here I'm back to the Messages app. I'm going to go back to my photo library. I tap on photos, and sure enough, now you can see that there is the photo of my grandson that came to me via a message in the Messages app. Sorry, I have to go back here just to rearrange a little bit. Okay. All right, so that's how you save a photo that's sent to you. Just kind of reviewing the steps. You tap on the photo, and then you tap on the share icon, and then you choose Save Image from that process. Pretty straightforward. Right, let's go on. How about searching messages? You have the ability to search all of the messages that are sitting on your device. In order to look for a certain person, maybe you need to search for a link or a photo or even the use of a particular term. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to go back to the home. So here's my message list. And you will notice that there is a search box up on the top of the message list. All right, so now how do you use that? All right. Oh, and by the way, the reason I say swipe down to expose the search bar is that you may have to go up to the top of your message list in order to see that. All right. Now, how do you use it? Well, one way to use it is you might just put a term. So, for instance, if I want to talk to all the people or see all of the conversations that I have from people who I've talked to about golf, I just typed the phrase or the word golf into the box, and that allowed me to retrieve those messages. By the way, I'm sorry for that phone call that's coming in. We'll ignore it and let it go away. The other thing that you can do with that search message is that you can tap on it, and now you actually see recent people, right? You can also see links, in that if you have sent links to people, see this article, you can also see the photographs that have been sent, right? And so the search function is a pretty handy function. And the way that you get to that is just make sure that you're at the top of the messages list, and that will take you to that search function. All right. Let's go to our second group of beyond the basic items. Let me check for questions here, see if there's anything coming up. Looks good so far. All right, terrific. All right, so now as we continue our Beyond the Basics, I want to spend a couple of times talking about emojis. I want to talk about your ability to dictate messages rather than typing. I want to talk briefly about special effects. And then we'll finish up by talking about some of the special effects. So we'll talk about tapbacks, and then we'll talk about the special effects. The special effects are like the fireworks or the balloons or the confetti that you can associate with the text messages that you send. All right. So now let's talk about emojis. What's an emoji? All right. Well, most people think of the smiley face emoji as the core definition of what an emoji is. Right. So in this particular case, if you are sending a message to someone and you have the keyboard displayed, on your keyboard on the lower right-hand corner, you have a smiley face. And if you tap on the smiley face, you will now access literally thousands of emojis. And in fact, down at this part of the screen, you can actually break it out by category. So if you need a flag emoji versus a people emoji, you can tap on those various categories. And so now if you want to put an emoji into your text message, you simply tap. And in fact, you can do multiples. Right in this, you just tap on the emojis. All right, so now let's call it the younger generation. Might use emojis in order to display some emotion, display something that you wouldn't normally be able to convey in the short, curt words of a text message. Now, there's a lot of emojis, and it is possible for you, by the way, to put this away, you just tap on the ABC at the bottom, and that'll get you back to the conventional keyboard. If I eliminate this, right, and another way to get an emoji is what I referenced down at the bottom of the slide deck, where you can type a word and you can see emojis in the line where you get predictive text. So as an example, if I type the word orange on my predictive text line, I get an emoji that is ready for me to choose. And so I can tap on it, and then it goes into the box. Right? And so if you are looking for a specific emoji for a fruit or a vegetable or a certain flag, you can actually type that word into the message box, and the emoji will show up in the predictive text. All right, so you can use emojis, and so if you get them, from your children or from your grandchildren, this is a way for you to be able to respond. Next item. Dictation. I'm a big fan of dictation. And it's been fun. I have a couple of my students that I've taught over the last couple of years that have mastered the ability to use dictation in order to create text messages. Right. So here's the challenge. Most of us in our generation learned how to type on a typewriter. Raise your hand. Right. And consequently, when we learned how to type, we learned how to type with 10 fingers. Right. So now you are typing text messages, and I see a couple of different styles. One style I see is where people are typing with their thumbs, holding their phone like this, or the other style that I see is people using one finger. They're so good you only have to use one finger, and you type like this. Right. So the challenge is, yes, it's better than doing text messages on a flip phone, but the challenge is you can't type very fast, and you can't be very verbose. You can't always be descriptive. And this is a perfect spot where dictation comes into the picture. All right. And so you can do dictation, and down on the lower right of your screen, below the keyboard, you see a microphone. And so if you type or if you tap on that microphone, you can then start to use dictation in order to create your message. I'm going to do a demonstration of it. This is one of those items where if after seeing this, you say, well, I would like to try this. This is good to practice. All right, it's good to practice this one before you actually need it. And actually, you don't have to practice in just the Messages app. You can do dictation in email. You can do dictation in the Notes app. You can do it any place where you are normally entering text. The biggest tip that I can give you is when you do dictation is you have to tell it to you have to speak your punctuation, right? So if you want to put a period at the end of a sentence, you have to say period. If you want a question mark or an exclamation point, you have to say question mark or exclamation mark. And that's the biggest tip that I can give you. So let's do a demonstration. All right, and so this is a message to my wife. And instead of typing it, I'm going to do dictation. And so I'm going to go down to the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to tap on the microphone. Hi, Joan, comma. I hope you have survived attending the Senior Tech Club live online event, period. It was good to have you here! Exclamation point. I was also pleased to see that there were a number of people that came to attend the session, period. It was wonderful to see the reception that this free training has received, period. I think we're going to do some more, comma. In fact, comma, I think we will have another session on Monday at 10 a.m. where we have an opportunity to focus on FaceTime. That's it. And the beauty about the dictation on your iPhone is it doesn't need any training. And yes, it obviously works better if you speak clearly, if you speak relatively slowly, and you don't include a lot of fillers right in your text. And it really did a fabulous job of doing the dictation. I'm looking at it here, and I only see one thing in this whole thing that I would do differently. So this is not unusual in that you may have to go back in and do some editing. Let me give you an editing tip. Normally think that when you go back and edit something like this, you have to tap at the location you want to change, all right? But sometimes it's really hard to get your cursor positioned exactly where you need it. So here's the tip I'd like to give you. If you put your finger on the space bar and you hold on the space bar, do you notice that my keys disappeared? Right? The letters on my keys disappeared. And now all of a sudden I can use this. If you look very closely on my screen, I am moving my cursor and I can then put it down to exactly where we want it. And now I can type my letter H in order to complete the word where. Right? So that little tip, it's not on the guide or on the slide deck, but if you simply press and hold, that now turns your keyboard into a little trackpad, so it's easy for you to make edits. All right, so after doing that dictation, I can press the send button, and I have now sent my wife a pretty lengthy message that would have probably taken me about a half hour using my thumbs. All right. Try the dictation. It's a fabulous, fabulous tool, and I think you'll enjoy using it. All right, we're almost out of time. I have two more quick things I want to show you, and then we'll be done for the day. TapX. If you get a message and you would like to respond to this message with a a thumbs up, a thumbs down, a laugh, a heart, a love, an exclamation point. You can do that by going to the message. So, for instance, in this particular case, I'm going to choose the message that came from Joan earlier. And if you press and hold on this message, it will now give you a bar of responses, right? And so I can do a thumbs up message, and it has now associated that thumbs up with that message. It is a fabulous way if you simply want to respond to a message, but you maybe don't have time to type a reply, right? You just want to do a quick tap back response. Just a note, this process works better with Apple's users, right? In that if you have somebody that a friend or a family member that's gone to the dark sides and is using an Android device, they will not see the thumbs up icon. Rather, what they will see is a word that they'll liked or disliked or laughed. All right, but it works great for other iPhone or Apple users. Very last item that we want to talk about is I want to demonstrate to you how you can do special animated effects. All right? Here's what we mean by this. Many times people first discover these special animated effects by sending somebody a happy birthday or a congratulations. All right, so I'm going to do this here. I'm going to tell Joan, my wife, I'm going to tell her congratulations, like that. And I send it, and I want you, on the right side of your screen, I want you to watch how that comes across. All right, you get confetti. All right, and this is exactly what the recipient is also going to see. You get, for happy birthday, you get the balloons, right? And so those are built into the Messages app. If you type congratulations or if you type happy birthday, you will get animated effects. But you can do your own custom animated effects. All right, so as an example, I go back to this. If I type, well, I'm going to go to a brand new message instead. I'm going to go to a brand new message, and I'm going to say, good job. All right, and I would like to include a special animated effect. And as you see on the slide deck on the left, you're going to press and hold the send icon. All right, and so that would be here. You're going to press and hold that send icon, and you will get a screen that looks like this. All right, so with these special animated effects, you have two different types. You have bubble. If you see up on the top of the screen, you have bubble and you have screen. I'm going to demonstrate the screen because I think they're easier to see. So I tap on screen, and this is the first example, right? And down along the bottom of the screen where you see these dots, this is your indication that there are additional animated effects. And I can swipe to the left to see them. So, for instance, here is a spotlight effect. Here is balloons. Here is the confetti. Here is the heart. And others. Here's the fireworks. All right. And so the point here is, now that you have selected fireworks, then all you have to do is press the send button, and it will then send that message with the fireworks that actually includes a little bit of audio. As I have done this over the past couple of years with, particularly people that are my students, I send text messages to my students, and I do something, I say good job, and I put the fireworks. It oftentimes elicits the response, how did you do that? Because if you look at your screen, there is no indication that pressing and holding that send button is going to do anything for you. It's kind of one of those hidden nuggets on your iPhone, and it's a lot of fun. And I bet if you do that, even to your children and grandchildren, I bet they're going to come to you and say, hey, how did you get that special effect? Now, just a footnote that I've included down at the bottom of the slide deck, in that this only works with iPhone, right? If you attempt to do this with an Android, they're not going to get a special effect. They're going to get some descriptive words, on that process. Okay, we did it, folks. All right, so what we did here over the last 51 minutes, I'm sorry I kept you overtime, is we talked a bit about texting. We explored a couple of basic skills. We took a look at 9 different beyond the basic skills. A couple of recommendations, right? Number 1, if you have any follow-up questions to this session, you are welcome to send questions by email to questions@seniortechclub.com. Just enter that email, and I will get those questions. I'm going to check to see if there's anything else that came in here. All right. Secondly, the page that you used to access this YouTube live session, the Senior Tech Club page, will include a download of the slide deck. In fact, it's already there. So if you would like to revisit a topic and you found that there was a hint on the slide deck, you can actually retrieve the slide deck and print it out, share it with other people if you want. Additionally, if you would like to replay this video, yes, embarrassingly, all of the funny things that I do is recorded on tape. I am going to post that video on the same page if you want to get back to it, right? Aside from that, the next Senior Tech Club live presentation that we're doing is going to be Monday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, and we are going to do a similar process with the FaceTime app. FaceTime has been a fabulous way to stay connected during our hunkered down phase with the COVID-19 crisis. So I hope to see you back here next Monday, same bat time, same bat channel. Be safe, stay well, wash your hands, and we'll see you next time. Bye.